Welcome back to Believe in the Miami Heat, brought to you by the Believe Network. As always, I'm your host, Anthony Donato, coming to y'all with another one of my chill, long-form podcasts. I do have timestamps down below, so if you want to get to a topic that more so interests you, because I got a feeling I'll be rambling a lot today. I know I will be, because this is like my fourth time recording this intro. But anyways, timestamps down below if you're on the YouTube side. If you're on the audio side, you can come to the YouTube side if you want to watch. I'm on every platform, just so everyone knows: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the other audios, YouTube, whatever. On the YouTube side, though, I did take the last couple of days off from posting because I'm working on a very, very big project. It's sort of a deep dive into the whole D Wade versus Purple Shirt Guy game. Y'all know Game 6, Round 1 of the 2016 NBA playoffs. I found a lot of interesting stuff about that. And I'm doing like a Jimmy High Roller style video. So if y'all like him or are just interested in that topic, make sure to subscribe, leave a like on the YouTube side because it helps me out a lot. And so far, I got the script written and I got it recorded. Haven't edited yet, but I think it's going to be a very, very good video. But I wanted to get a video/pod out today. I think I'm going to upload this on Saturday, which is the day that D Wade officially gets enshrined into the Hall of Fame. Because I'm going to actually be in Miami this weekend because I may go to the Inter Miami game on Friday. By the time y'all watching this, I may or may not have went to the game, but either way, I live in Fort Myers now. I grew up in Broward in Miami, so I don't want to bring all my recording equipment down for the weekend, so I'm just recording this pod in advance. But anyways, I want to talk about D Wade's whole career today. I took zero notes whatsoever because I want to ramble, and whatever comes up, and maybe we could have a good time just reminiscing today. Now, I want to start off by saying I started watching basketball in 2010, 2011, LeBron's first season here. Now, I'm not no sort of poser or front runner because, I was a little young in 06 when D Wade got his first chip. I was 8 years old. Not, too young to watch sports, but I was still a little young at that time to understand everything. And kind of after that, the Heat sucked. All the other Miami teams sucked. The Dolphins always sucked. The Marlins, the Panthers, they all sucked. So I never really was a sports guy in general. Now, my dad was always a sports guy, as you guys might have heard me say before, because he grew up with the 1972 Dolphins and Dan Marino, and then he had the good Heat teams in the 90s, the good Marlins team in the 90s, and even the Panthers that I guess had a Stanley Cup run, or Stanley Cup Finals run at that point. But anyways, I wasn't a sports guy. At the time, prior to 2010, really the only basketball players I knew was like Wade, LeBron, Shaq, and Kobe. That was it. In fact, I actually remember in PE one time, I was cool with everyone in school even before I started playing sports. So the guys that like basketball were asking me like, hey, how many guys do you know? And I told them those 4 NBA players. And they're like, oh, you better know D Wade, because of course we was growing up in Broward. And he said, what number does D Wade wear? And I remember I didn't know. He said, what college? He said, how many rings? I didn't know any of that information. For some reason, that instance stuck with me. Y'all know these how y'all sometimes have random, insignificant moments in your life that stick with you. That was one of them for me. But anyways, you fast forward to 2010. Of course, LeBron makes his decision, which I knew nothing about at the time. But you start hearing all these people talk about, hey, LeBron in Miami. This guy's coming to South Beach. It's a big deal, whatever. So I was like, you know what? It sounds like a big deal. I'll go ahead and I'll check it out. Kind of like I'm doing now with Messi, because I watched no soccer games outside of the World Cup until Messi got here. But obviously, I respect him as the legend that he is. So I started watching some Inter Miami, and it's been fun for the last 4 games. So maybe I'll be at the game Friday. I'll see. But anyways, I sat down with my dad to watch my first ever Heat game because of LeBron. And I remember it was the game, I think, versus Memphis. It was either Memphis or Utah, where Udonis Haslem got hurt. The game where he messed up his quad or something that first year in the Big Three. But basically, watched that whole season. They ended up losing in the finals. But from the start, my entire Heat fandom was based around LeBron. I was a really, really big LeBron guy. So when people ask me my favorite player in Heat history, it's not D Wade. And it's not actually LeBron because I didn't like him when he left the Heat because I was still young and I was in high school and I was salty and all that. I probably tell people that my favorite Heat player of all time is Hassan Whiteside. Don't hate me for it. If y'all fans of the channel, y'all probably knew I was going to say that anyways. But regardless, I'm a diehard Heat fan. My favorite player in all time in general is this guy right here. If y'all are on the video side, Hakeem Olajuwon. He's my favorite player of all time. Now, screw the Rockets. I don't like the Rockets whatsoever, but he's my favorite player of all time. I just love his game, his story, his history, everything about him. I'm a big Hakeem fan. But still, obviously in 2010, 2011, D-Wade was still very, very good that season. Him and LeBron were trying to work out their, who's going to take charge, who's going to be the one, who's going to be, 1A, 1B. Y'all know how they were going back and forth, kind of figuring out that whole dynamic that first year. And then, of course, in 2011, D-Wade would have won Finals MVP if LeBron didn't choke against J.J. Barea. They would have won the championship, and D-Wade was the best player in that series. So I certainly had respect for D-Wade. And, of course, over the years, don't get me wrong, I acknowledge Dwyane Wade is the greatest. This is what I always say. There's a debate who's the greatest player in Heat history. In my opinion, Dwyane Wade is the best Miami Heat ever. However, the greatest player to ever play for the Miami Heat is LeBron. The best player on the team, LeBron. The best Miami Heat, D-Wade. Do you kind of get the difference that I'm saying there? I hope so, because if not, it is a little bit hard to explain. But regardless, I acknowledge everything D-Wade's done for the city. It's just I didn't grow up watching the MV3 season, 08, 09, or the year before that, I think, is when he averaged 30 points. I wasn't alive, or I was alive, but I wasn't watching sports when D-Wade had like 26 points in the fourth quarter of Game 3 in the 2006 NBA Finals. I wasn't there for one shirt, one suit, one tie. I wasn't there for the game winner his rookie year versus Charlotte. I wasn't there for the dunk on Varejao. The moments are obviously endless, but I didn't really grow up with him being the guy. I grew up with LeBron being the guy. But regardless, I still have tons of D-Wade memory. So I'm kind of just starting to look back at, his kind of, not his game log, but his stats, per season stats here, and just reminiscing about the year. So the first year the first year with the Big Three, when I started watching, of course, he had that incredible finals run. He also had, what was I going to say? I was just going to say something else about D-Wade. Now I forget. Anyways, going into that second year of the Big Three, I remember a lot more. And the thing that I admire most about him that I've acknowledged in the years since is how he took a step back. He acknowledged that the way I think the Miami Heat can most be successful is if LeBron is the leader. So he was actually able to put his ego to the side and take a step back to do what's best for the team. That is one of the reasons that I obviously love Dwyane Wade and have damn much respect for him, because a lot of guys don't do that. You have guys like Carmelo Anthony who wouldn't do that. They don't have a ring. You have guys like Chris Paul who I believe wouldn't do that. They don't have a ring. We've even heard Chris Paul sound like he might even be a little salty if he's coming off the Golden State Warriors bench. Again, guy who's a little bit hesitant to put his ego to the side for the betterment of a team. Fortunately, the Heat weren't like that. They all took sacrifices. The Big Three took sacrifices to keep UD here. That was Dwyane Wade's idea, So I certainly have a lot of respect for him from that. Oh, I remember what I was going to say now. That first year, you had versus Chicago Bulls in the Game 5, I think maybe it was the closeout game, or Game 4. They were about to lose, and then D-Wade and LeBron went on like a personal 13-0 run between the two of them. D-Wade was hitting threes, pull-up jumpers. His ability just to take over when the game matters most is obviously one of my favorite things about him. That's the definition of a superstar. That's always what I say with Jimmy Butler too. And then, of course, going into that next year, we had they won the championship, I guess, versus OKC. So it was nice to see D-Wade get his second ring and his first without Shaq, even though I guess they had LeBron. So I don't really know what that means for his legacy. But then, of course, you go into 2013. They won the championship again that year. And that's kind of around the time that we started to see D-Wade really sort of break down and not beat himself. I actually remember him having a particularly bad finals in 2013 because I was at the watch party for Game 4 in the arena. Y'all know how they do those road rallies when they're for big games when they're on the road. I was in, at the time, American Airlines Arena watching Game 4, and he went off that game. I'm talking mid-range jumper after mid-range jumper after mid-range jumper, and I remember being like, damn, D-Wade is back. Loved to see it because he did struggle a lot because of his injuries. I think one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history that people don't really talk about is what if D-Wade never got that meniscus shaved in college? If y'all remember, he had some knee issues in college, and he could have either shaved his meniscus and came back sooner or had it completely redone, and the recovery time would have been longer. he went with the option for the shorter recovery time. However, that significantly shortened the length of his career. They say that if he would have got the full repair, which is literally what Jalen Ramsey just went through, by the way. Jalen Ramsey is going to miss majority of this regular season. If he would have just got it shaved, for the Miami Dolphins, he would have been back maybe by game 1. But obviously, that affects later in your career. So I'm actually glad Ramsey went the route that he did, because we just saw this with D. Wade. By the time he was, 31 years old, he was already starting to break down. Now, part of that is because not only the surgery he got in college on his meniscus, but also because of his play style. He pretty much every time he attacked the paint, he fell to the floor. Same thing as Jimmy Butler, which does concern me for Jimmy's longevity as well. A lot of people will say Jimmy has an old man's game with the mid-range, but so did D. Wade. And D. Wade, D. Wade played to 37, and he was very good. He was very effective in his last season. So let me not act like D. Wade was a bum by the end of his career. He wasn't no Paul Pierce, okay? We're not even going to get into the Paul Pierce or Harden debates this episode, because y'all know the deal with that. But regardless, he obviously is a guy that attacked the rim. His body got hit a lot. I think maybe his career could have lasted even longer if he wasn't that type of player. If he could have developed the three-point shot, who knows? But regardless, it doesn't matter. He's the third greatest shooting guard of all time. And the fact that he was able to adjust to, he started losing a lot of his athleticism when he was 31, but he was able to be a productive player for like another 6-7 years, until he was 37. So credit to D. Wade for that. Maybe we start seeing something similar from Jimmy Butler as well also. But regardless, you had those big 3 years. 2014, they lost in the finals to the Spurs. I can't really think of any significant D. Wade memories from that year. Obviously, you've had the great games, the great playoff performances, the 41 points versus the Indiana Pacers. But for the most part, most of my memories from that time are centered around LeBron. And obviously the big moments from everyone else, Ray Allen's shot, Chris Bosh's block, all that sort of thing. But as far as D. Wade, that's just the truth. I personally don't have a lot of memories that stick out for me about him. And again, that's just because when I grew up, LeBron was the guy. If you ask 90% of Heat fans who's their favorite player of all time for any team, they say D. Wade. That's just not something I can say. And I was going to say, too, that doesn't make me a front runner because, one, the Big Three started, 13 years ago now? I've been watching nearly every single Heat game for 13 years, and I consider myself a historian, so I know everything prior to D. Wade, even though I didn't watch. So, obviously, I'm aware of everything, but I just, wasn't there as a kid to watch. That's really all it is to it. So I want to move forward to when he went to Chicago then in 2016, or after the 2016 season, which is after the purple shirt guy game. So had the purple shirt guy game. They beat Charlotte in 7 games. I was at that game 7, by the way. And then they lose to the Raptors game 7 the next series. And then D. Wade wants his money, goes to Chicago. Now, the interesting thing that I remember about that is supposedly because when you take into account the state income tax, he was basically getting paid the same contract with Chicago that he was getting with Miami. But it's pretty clear that D. Wade left because he felt like he wasn't being respected, which I get. That offseason, he prioritized Kevin Durant. Okay, he's Kevin Durant. But then they prioritized Hassan Whiteside. To prioritize Hassan Whiteside, a guy who just got there, a minimum contract, to put him over D. Wade when Wade still didn't have a contract, completely understand why he feels very, very disrespected. And on top of that, he's able to go, he has an opportunity to play for his hometown team in the Chicago Bulls, a team that he's grew up watching. I could see why that would be very, very hard for D. Wade to turn down. And then, of course, he had that stint in Cleveland after that no one wants to remember. But before that, back to D. Wade leaving Chicago, again, 99% of Heat fans were distraught that he left. Truthfully, this is an unpopular opinion. I liked the move. I'll be honest with you. And let me tell you why. I did not want D. Wade to leave. I wanted D. Wade to be the Kobe, Tim Duncan, Dirk, play 20 years, the UD, play 20 years, retire with a team. I would have loved that. But I didn't want to sacrifice the future of the organization to give Dwyane Wade his thank you legacy contract. This was at the time we were just watching how terrible the Lakers were because they gave Kobe that lifetime contract. And because of that, the Lakers sucked. Kobe was obviously not himself at the later stages of his career. And because he was taking up so much of the salary cap space, the rest of the team wasn't good and they sucked. I didn't want that for the Miami Heat. So when they decided to not pay D. Wade what he wants and prioritize some other guys, truthfully, I understood the move and I didn't hate it. it was sad. I'm not saying it's not sad, but I didn't hate the move. Now, maybe it's also because I love Hassan Whiteside, as has been documented 1,000 times, so I was happy they re-signed him, but still, I just didn't want to be the Lakers, and I think they would have ended up being that bad, which I guess they kind of were that bad when D-Wade left anyways, but I didn't want to overpay that much for a guy just as a thank you when I wasn't sure he was deserving of it at the time, truthfully. I mean, as watching him as a Heat fan, it was kind of sad because his body was almost really, really falling apart. But fast forward through that stint in Chicago, well, I shouldn't even fast forward through that because that's what landed us Jimmy Butler. So even in hindsight, my idea to let D-Wade walk worked phenomenally. Now, I don't think, that's obviously not the reason that I wanted D-Wade to leave. I didn't think he was going on some Jimmy Butler recruiting mission, but that's how it turned out. So I think even Heat fans nowadays need to at least acknowledge that and be thankful that D-Wade left, because we would not have Jimmy Butler if Dwyane Wade didn't go to the Chicago Bulls. I mean, that's been documented time and time again. They used to talk all the time. Jimmy wasn't happy in that situation. Wade wasn't happy. They had those two and Rondo, just the weirdest trio ever. They had, and then a bunch of immature young guys there. We know Jimmy Butler, he wants to win. He doesn't want to deal with that nonsense. So him and D-Wade start talking. D-Wade says, hey, you're a Miami Heat player, bro. You would love that organization. And sure enough, it was just a few years later after his stints in Minnesota and Philly that Jimmy Butler would end up here and likely here for the rest of his career. And of course, we all know how beautiful that's been. 3 Eastern Conference Finals, 2 NBA Finals, and hopefully one day an NBA championship. I believe so. And Jimmy Butler, I trust so. In hindsight, shout out to D-Wade for getting us Jimmy Butler. But you had that stint in Chicago. They lost, I think, in the first round of the playoffs. He went to Cleveland for like half a season. No one will ever remember that. He wore number 9. It was super weird. That's when Cleveland had like Isaiah Thomas and Derrick Rose, and one of the weirdest on paper rosters ever. But then we get the news. D-Wade is traded back to the Miami Heat. I remember exactly where I was during this moment. I was in the library about to study. Shout out my friend Camilla Santana. I'm gonna send this to her, so shout out to you. She said we was gonna meet in the library. We was gonna meet in the study room, whatever, because we had some engineering BS that we had to work on, right? So she texted me. She's like, I'm in room 403, whatever it was. And I was like, all right, I'm on my way. And as soon as I got up, because I was like sitting in the lobby, as soon as I got up to go to the study room that she reserved, I get the notification from Woj or whoever it was. Shooting guard, 3-time champion Dwyane Wade is traded from the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Miami Heat for a 2nd-round pick. I lost it, bro. I was so excited. Just the fact that D-Wade was back in the city after those mediocre James Johnson and Tyler Johnson, Deion Waiters years that they had, to finally have some identity back to this team, to finally seem like we repaired that damaged relationship that we had with Wade. Because, yes, although I didn't agree with paying Wade, I didn't want to lose. I didn't want D-Wade to hate the Miami Heat, and certainly things were a bit rough there for some time. So the fact that it seemed like they were actually able to repair that relationship a little bit, get D-Wade back here, bring some excitement, and at the time, help this team out. I remember we needed someone like him. We needed someone that could come in and score, and he came off the bench, and he did that very, very well. It looks like he averaged 12 points per game off the bench that second half of the season here. So, yeah, he was a productive player here. And it was fun. It was obviously just exciting to have D-Wade back in the city. And then I eventually get to the study room with my friend, and she doesn't know the first thing about basketball. And I'm trying to explain to her how big a deal this is. And she was trying to act excited, but in reality, I really don't think she cared at all. But anyways, a really, really great time in my Heat fandom. And then, of course, you get the next year here, his final year here, the World Tour, I think he, after that season, what's the line that he dropped? He says something like "Heat family, one last dance." That's the slogan. There you go. I knew I was gonna get around to it. We had the one last dance. Really, really a fun season. I remember going into it, I was like, man, Kobe's last ride was fun because they weren't going to make the playoffs, so he could kind of do whatever he wants. But going into D-Wade's last season, I fully expected to make the playoffs. Now, unfortunately, it didn't really turn out that way. They weren't as successful as we maybe hoped, but it was a lot of fun going to the games. I went to multiple games that year. I was very fortunate to be able to do that. Fortunate, I guess the team wasn't as good, so tickets were a little bit cheaper, so I was able to go to a few games, but it was awesome, man. I was actually at the game where D Wade was with the Bulls, his first game back in Miami. I didn't mention that either. So I was able to be part of D Wade's standing ovation in the intros, and then I booed him the rest of the game. And he flopped at the end of the game, and I was super mad about that. It's a very niche reference. I don't know if anyone remembers that insignificant moment. But anyways, back to his last season here, the one last dance. Of course, the shot that everyone talks about is his game winner versus the Warriors. And I remember I was mad when he hit that shot. I actually want to look up that 2019 NBA draft class, because I remember there was a guy that I really wanted to draft that year. So I was mad that, is it 2019 or 2018? Either way, I remember being really mad. No, it is, because that's when the Heat took Tyler Hero. Yeah. I remember being mad because I wanted the higher draft pick, right? And that was later in the season, I believe, when D Wade hit that game winner. So it might have hurt our draft chances or something. Who remembers? But I think I wanted like Kobe White, and the Heat ended up with Tyler Hero. So how stupid of me to care about that shot. I remember I also wanted like Sekou Demboya. So that tells you how much I know about scouting in basketball. I'll let Andy Simon and the rest of the Heat front office do their job there. But at the time, I was a little annoyed that Wade hit that shot. But looking back, it's truly one of the most fun moments of my life as a Heat fan. Crazy part, I remember exactly where I was when that happened. I was in a Tacos and Tequila. My friend was in town, my boy Khalil. And so we were all hanging out at the restaurant. Now, usually I don't be missing Heat games, but since he was in town, we decided to go out. And obviously the team wasn't as good back then. But anyways, fortunately, we eat our dinner. And fortunately, I checked the score when we're done eating dinner. And he's a huge Heat fan too. And we see that there's only maybe 30 seconds to a minute left in the game, and it's a close game. So we say, damn, we got to turn this game on now. So we go to the parking lot, we get in the car, and I pull up the NBA app on my phone, and we see that game winner by D Wade in the parking lot of a Tacos and Tequila. Magical moment. And we started screaming from the outside. I remember people were looking at us walking to the restaurant. They were looking at the car, making sure no one was dying in the car, because that's how loud we were screaming. But truly a magical moment. And then maybe my favorite moment in D Wade's career. Maybe I can say this, that since I've been watching, obviously he's a multiple time champion and all that, but that last game in Brooklyn, that's pass to Udonis Haslem to get the triple double. Like, that is something that I watch like once a month and tear up every time I see it. I don't know if it's because I'm sad that the memories are gone, or I'm getting old, or I don't know if it's tears of joy because of how beautiful it was. But I remember sitting in my bedroom in my apartment in college. I think it was a sophomore in college at that point. And obviously I'm keeping track of the stats and all that. And actually going into that game, everyone's wondering, oh, what's D-Wade going to do? Kobe had 60. How's he going to handle it? And I said, I don't think he's the type to go for like 40, 50 points. I think he's going to try to get a triple-double. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And we know he got 9 assists. He flips it back to UD. And as soon as UD pulled up from his smooth, sweet spot right in that mid-range, dog, I started screaming. I didn't even have to wait for it to go in. Neither did D-Wade. He turned around. And at that moment, I probably fell to my knees. And it was beautiful, man. I'm imagining it in my head as I'm saying it. That's really bad for podcasting. I understand. But it was a good time, man. It was a really, really good time. But obviously, outside of that, D-Wade retired. They got his jersey retired. I also teared up during that. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a beautiful moment. It really made me feel like I was getting old, too, which I am. I'm 25, and I feel so old. But anyways, the part that kind of sucks now is how he's not an owner of the Heat. That part always doesn't really sit right with me. He's obviously a minority owner of the Jazz. I think he just bought a little stake in a WNBA team. And it doesn't quite sit right with me why he's not here. It makes me think that maybe his relationship with the Heat is not fully repaired. He's, of course, having Allen Iverson induct him into the Hall of Fame when you have to pick someone who's already a Hall of Famer. So he can't pick like LeBron. But if he wanted a Heat representative, he could have had Gary Payton. He could have had Alonzo Mourning. He could have had Shaq. He could have had Pat Riley is probably who I would have liked to seen the most. But I'm going to assume his relationship with the Heat is still good because he still goes to the games. They still show him on the TV, and he's still very involved and speaks highly of everyone in the Heat, as I'm sure he will during his ceremony speech, which is Saturday nights, I believe. So I'll probably upload this video like Saturday early afternoon or early before noon. So maybe I'll have another video talking about, everything he said, because I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. He's an amazing storyteller and really just amazing guy. Just to talk about him as a person. I mean, I've read all of his books that he's published. I mean, y'all see the one back here, but I read like his actual novels. I think A Father First was his first one. And I read that book back in high school, and it was talking about his personal life. Wildly difficult life growing up, obviously with his family situation and his girl situation, and he had a kid at a young age. He had so much adversity that he overcame because of how strong a person he is, how good a person he is. I mean, that gets talked about a lot, but it doesn't get talked about enough. Like truly how amazing person he is. And truly, I respect everything he's doing nowadays still just to advance the society and everything he's doing now. Obviously, with the LGBTQ community, with his daughter now, Zaya. I love how he's a loving father when a lot of people might not be, regardless of what her gender is, which I personally don't care about. Too many people care about what other people's genders are. That's stupid to me. I could not care less. Do whatever makes you happy. So the fact that D-Wade has not only, been okay with his daughter Zaya, but has embraced her, has publicly spoken, for the rights of the LGBT community, it's something I respect a lot. I mean, it really is. And he's spoken for equal rights for all different kinds of minorities and prejudiced people and all that stuff. So I have a ton of respect for him in that regard. And I mean, you hear this all the time. I can go on and on about how great a person he is. I never met him, but I just know what I've read and what I've heard, and it's that he's the toppest of the top, the most elite person. So hopefully he does get some stake in the Miami Heat one day. I'd like to see him stay home over here. I mean, even for recruiting, I think it'd be great. You see how much guys like Donovan Mitchell like him, and even Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard. Maybe that could have helped us get some of those guys. Well, I still think Dame will be here. He's not as of this recording, but still, I think it would help from recruiting, but I'd really just like him to be here. Obviously, UD, you'd like to believe he has some stake in this company one day, because D-Wade and UD are phenomenal businessmen. I mean, they own 1 million businesses out the wazoo. I don't think I've ever said that term before, out the wazoo, but you get the point. I mean, D-Wade got the wines and the shoes, the Flywades. Oh my God, the Jordan Flywades back from like 2014. Some of my favorite hoop shoes ever. Y'all know which ones I'm talking about. And of course, UD owns like the Subways and the pizza shops and whatever else I think he has. But smart business guys. They're gonna be maybe even more successful. Both of them. Especially D-Wade is gonna be more successful maybe post retirement than he was playing. Because he's a smart guy too. So I have a lot of respect for him. There's probably all kinds of stuff I'm forgetting about D-Wade. So if I didn't mention something relevant, don't get mad at me. Like I said, I took no notes here. It was just kind of fun to reminisce and ramble for a little bit. And like I said, subscribe so y'all don't miss that purple shirt guy deep dive that I'm making. That video is going to take me a massive amount of time. So I want it to perform well. But more importantly, I really think that y'all will enjoy. But that's all I got for this episode. So comment down below some of your favorite D-Wade memories. And I'm certainly looking forward to his speech tonight. So that's all I got. Leave a like, subscribe. If you're on the audio side, leave 5 stars to the podcast. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.
Look, pull up in your city tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.